These are 50 totally true things about me. Let's get started. I'm 24, but if I'm not consciously considering my age, I will tell you I'm 21. I just literally forget how old I am. I was born in late July, which makes me a Leo, but just barely. I really like monster as a term of endearment. My favorite moment of any We Do Music rom-com is when the guy is doing his big romantic musical gesture and he's gathered a crowd and he's trying to get the girl to like come up and sing with him, and then he like looks out at the crowd and he's like, don't you want to hear this girl sing? And they all just go crazy. They're like, yeah, we want to hear her sing, woohoo. And it's like my favorite moment because they don't know her. She could be tone deaf. And then what would they do? They had just like collectively cheer pressured her on stage. Anytime I see a child outside of the direct eye line of like a parent or guardian or teacher or someone that they clearly belong with, I get very, very nervous that I am going to have to be responsible for that child. And I'm not qualified. I think I finally made it to a point in my life where I'm mostly happy most of the time, but it still only takes like 2 questions to make me feel like a failure. 1, if it's well worded. I think water is genuinely my favorite drink. My favorite animal is the octopus. They're just really cool. There's like some cool stuff under the sea. I used to think that I couldn't bake pies, but as it turns out, I can. I think my cat is adorable when she's angry. I get so offended when Netflix lists something as a comedy and then it isn't by any stretch of the imagination funny. I have one friend who I've only ever cussed around when I was driving, and every time it happens, I get so embarrassed. Sometimes my internal monologue does heavy metal renditions of Robert Frost poems. I think I own too many cardigans. I will waste hours upon hours watching snippets of Bill Hader interviews on YouTube. I used to read Summer of the Swans like twice a year. My parents like to tell these stories about when I was younger and I would play Othello or Mancala by myself in my room. And I think it's because these stories remind them that I was like a cute and quirky child, but they just remind me of how lonely I was. I really like the word grandiloquent because you can't say grandiloquent without being a little bit grandiloquent. My favorite movie is probably Penelope. It's almost embarrassing how many books I've only read like 4 chapters in. I work at a library, but I still almost never get my books returned on time. I had a professor once tell the class that when an adult cries, there comes a moment where the decision to continue crying is like a tactic. So now I try really hard to only cry in private. I will sacrifice all of the bread for moist cookies. I agree, moist is a terrible word. It just doesn't have a suitable synonym. Sometimes I think about how far away Renee is and it breaks my heart a little bit. LeVar Burton is my #1 celebrity crush. I wake up early, but I dawdle so much, it's surprising I'm not always late to everything. Scottish Winds by Frightened Rabbit has been pretty consistently my favorite song for the past 4 years. I really want to go back to Scotland. This one's a little bit mushy. The best thing about both of my jobs is the people that I work with. I actually kind of like that my brother calls me K-Rat. I really love doing dramatic recitations of hip-hop songs. My favorite thing about doing stand-up comedy is when I tell a joke and then the reaction is like 66% laughter and 33% like a genuine aww. Hannah Kendrick is my favorite. Bread is delicious, so I don't understand why someone would willingly forfeit it. Sometimes I spend too much time contemplating the discrepancies between cultural literacy and the literary canon. I don't like most even numbers or multiples of 5. My favorite color is gray. I thoroughly enjoy getting people off track. I often worry that I will develop obsessive compulsive disorder in my 30s. I know that probably either coast would be better for trying to kick off a career in comedy, but I really just don't want to leave Kansas City. I don't really get hose. I've worn hose before. I just don't understand the purpose of it. I spend too much time daydreaming about my future house. I am overly enthusiastic about friendship. Sometimes I have to do this thing where I don't look directly at an attractive person, but instead just try to see them from my peripheral. I have a very hard time not saying things that I think will be funny. My brother's band is probably my favorite band, and I don't think that that is a result of my biases. Although, admittedly, the band is comprised of some of my favorite people. If we're friends, I'm probably like 110% excited about your existence. I like to find goofy faces in everyday objects. One time, I babysat my friend's kid, and I watched this kid for like 2 hours maybe, and I let him eat half a box of meringues and a handful of marshmallows, and then I returned him to his father. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know some stuff about you in the comments down below.